Picture Colorado in 2025, a land of jagged peaks, vibrant cities, and boundless dreams. Tourists flock to its ski slopes, tech startups thrive in Boulder, and Denver's skyline gleams with promise. But beneath this postcard-perfect image lies a shadow that's growing darker by the day. Homelessness, once a quiet issue tucked into urban corners, has become a roaring crisis, stretching from the streets of Denver to the rural reaches of Montezuma County. It's not just a statistic, it's a wound on Colorado's soul, a story of lives fraying in a state sold as a haven of opportunity. Welcome to Stories Homeless News, where the silenced find their voice and the hidden demand to be seen. Today, we're tearing back the veil on Colorado's homelessness epidemic, a crisis that's not just about numbers, but about people. Families, children, elders, and veterans are caught in a storm of soaring rents, stagnant wages, and a system that's buckling under pressure. Nearly $1 billion a year is poured into addressing this issue, yet the ranks of those without shelter keep swelling. Tent cities creep along the Rockies rivers, survival sex festers in forgotten corners, and hope erodes in the hearts of those who thought Colorado was where anyone could make it. "I thought this was the place to start over," a weary Denverite told us, his voice heavy with disillusionment as he sat in a makeshift camp. "Now I'm invisible." His words echo a truth that can no longer be ignored. Join us as we dive into the stories of struggle and resilience, exposing a crisis that demands action. Dare you confront the truth that won't stay buried? The homelessness epidemic, a statewide struggle. The homelessness crisis in Colorado is no longer a whisper, it's a roar that echoes across the state. In 2023, the annual point-in-time count recorded over 10,000 individuals without a home on a single night. But that's just the surface. Thousands more teeter on the edge, crashing on friends' couches, squeezing into overcrowded motels, or sleeping in cars. "You're invisible until you're not," a Boulder mother named Lisa told Stories Homeless News. Her family of 4 now lives in a minivan, their belongings stuffed into plastic bins, their dreams of stability fading with each passing night. This crisis isn't confined to Denver's urban core or Boulder's bustling streets. It's seeped into rural counties, tourist towns, and suburban neighborhoods, painting a stark picture of a state in distress. From the ski resorts of Summit County to the quiet plains of Pueblo, homelessness is reshaping Colorado's landscape. What's shocking is who it's affecting. The old stereotype of the single, unshaven man on a street corner no longer holds. Families, pregnant women, and multi-generational households are flooding shelters. In 2024, Colorado public schools reported over 20,000 students grappling with housing instability. Children too exhausted or traumatized to focus in class, carrying the weight of uncertainty that no child should bear. Economic pressures are relentless. A minimum wage worker in metro areas like Denver or Fort Collins needs to clock 80 to 90 hours a week to afford a one-bedroom apartment at market rates. Soaring rents, stagnant wages, and gentrification have pushed long-time residents out, while zoning laws block affordable housing development. Tent cities now line bike paths, rivers, and underpasses, their tarps flapping in the mountain wind. Shelters are at capacity, with wait lists for transitional housing stretching months, sometimes years. In mountain towns like Vail and Aspen, service workers, chefs, cleaners, hotel staff sleep in cars or barracks-like dorms, unable to afford the communities they sustain. Homelessness strips away more than a roof. It erodes safety, dignity, and hope, pushing people toward desperate measures. "What would you do if you had nowhere to go?" Lisa asked us, her eyes searching for an answer. As we peel back the layers of this crisis, it's clear that homelessness is just the beginning. For many, the struggle to survive leads to darker paths, where vulnerability meets exploitation. Survival, sex, and exploitation. A hidden toll homelessness doesn't just steal shelter, it steals choices. In Colorado, where desperation lurks in The shadows of prosperity survival often means trading the only thing some have left, their bodies. Despite myths, prostitution is illegal statewide under Colorado Revised Statutes 187201, but the crisis has driven a surge in survival sex and human trafficking, particularly among women, teens, LGBTQ youth, and undocumented individuals. In 2023, Colorado reported at least 84 human trafficking cases, though experts warn the real number is likely tenfold, hidden in plain sight along hotel corridors and online platforms. Stories. Homeless News met Tanya, a 19-year-old in Colorado Springs, who fled an abusive home only to find herself trading sex for a place to sleep. It wasn't a choice. It was survival, she said, her voice barely above a whisper. What starts as informal exchanges, sex for food, a warm bed, or temporary safety, can spiral into organized exploitation. Victims are trapped by psychological manipulation, withheld documents, or dependency on substances. Colorado's central location, booming population, and tourism industry make it a hub for trafficking networks, operating through websites, massage parlors, and even the very hotels that fuel the state's economy. Certain groups face heightened risks. Youth aging out of foster care and LGBTQ teens, often rejected by families, are prime targets. I had nowhere to go, so I went with him, a 17-year-old named Alex told us, describing how a predator offered shelter only to exploit them. Organizations like the Colorado Human Trafficking Council offer support, but resources are stretched thin. Shelters often impose strict rules, excluding those with criminal records or mental health challenges, leaving many with nowhere to turn. How can we protect the most vulnerable when the system shuts them out? A volunteer asked us, her frustration palpable. This exploitation doesn't exist in isolation. It's intertwined with another devastating challenge, one that numbs pain but deepens despair. The substance abuse crisis. A public health emergency. Colorado's streets are a battleground for a public health emergency fueled by substance abuse. In 2023, the state saw a 94.9% spike in overdose-related challenges since 2018, with fentanyl-related issues skyrocketing by 833.1%. Fentanyl, a synthetic opioid so potent it can kill in tiny doses, now laces nearly every street drug. Cocaine, methamphetamine, even fake prescription pills. You don't even know what you're taking anymore, a Denver outreach worker named Jamal told Stories Homeless News. Methamphetamine, highly addictive and devastating, is also resurgent, used by many unhoused individuals to stay alert or suppress hunger. Harm reduction efforts like needle exchanges and Narcan distribution save lives but are woefully underfunded. Public libraries and fast food restaurants now stock Narcan, a grim sign of how widespread the crisis has become. Detox centers have months-long wait lists, and outreach workers are overwhelmed, often carrying the emotional weight of watching clients relapse or disappear. Stigma compounds the problem. Many hide their struggles, fearing judgment or losing their children, which isolates them further. I'm not a bad mom, Lisa, the Boulder mother, told us. I just needed something to get through the night. The substance abuse crisis doesn't just affect individuals. It strains communities and systems. Hospitals, shelters, and law enforcement are stretched thin, caught in a cycle where addiction feeds homelessness, and homelessness feeds addiction. As we explore this further, we see how it intersects with a crumbling infrastructure meant to support those in need. A collapsing safety net. Mental health and healthcare. Failures. Colorado's healthcare and mental health systems are buckling under the weight of this crisis. In 2023, the state's mental health system ranked 46th nationally, with entire counties lacking psychiatrists. Medicaid appointments can take 4 months, and emergency rooms have become makeshift psychiatric wards. Nearly 6% of Colorado adults, 266,000 people, report severe mental health struggles, yet many go untreated, especially among the unhoused. I can't sleep, can't think, can't get help. a man named Marcus told us outside a Denver shelter, his hands trembling. Physical health. Challenges are equally dire. Chronic conditions like diabetes or heart disease worsen without access to medication or hygiene. Simple tasks, like keeping insulin cold or refilling prescriptions, become impossible without a stable address. Hospitals, stretched thin, discharge. Patients back to the streets, knowing they'll return in worse condition. Law enforcement, untrained for mental health crises, often steps in, turning jails into de facto treatment centers. "We're not equipped for this," an officer admitted, handing a blanket to a woman in crisis. "But who else is going to help?" This isn't just a logistical failure, it's a betrayal of those who need help most. The collapse of these systems pushes people deeper into the cycle of homelessness and desperation. What does it say about a society when its most vulnerable are left to fend for themselves? To understand the full scope, we must look at those least equipped to endure. This crisis, children and the elderly. The most vulnerable. Children and the elderly. The heart of Colorado's crisis beats most painfully in the lives of its youngest and oldest residents. In 2024, over 20,000 students in Colorado public schools grappled with housing instability. These children show up to class hungry, unwashed, carrying burdens no child should bear. Teachers, stretched beyond their roles, become counselors and caregivers, offering snacks and solace with little support. I see kids falling asleep in class, not because they're lazy, but because they're exhausted, a Denver teacher told us. These young souls face not just academic setbacks, but heightened risks of exploitation and a future shadowed by poverty. Equally devastating is the plight of the elderly, who are slipping into homelessness at an unprecedented rate. Skyrocketing. Rents, fixed incomes, and mounting medical bills force seniors into cars, motels, or makeshift shelters. Many navigate chronic illnesses, arthritis, diabetes, heart conditions, without consistent care, clutching canes or oxygen tanks in harsh, unsafe conditions. For them, each day is a quiet struggle to hold on to dignity. Take Sarah, a 64-year-old grandmother we met outside a Colorado Springs library. Her silver hair tucked under a worn scarf, Sarah once worked as a nurse, raising 3 children and caring for her dying husband. But when her landlord doubled her rent, her life unraveled. Now she lives in her battered sedan, her arthritis flaring in the biting cold, her heart aching for her grandkids. "I gave everything, my heart, my years, to this community," she whispered, a faded photo of her family tucked in her glove box. "Now I'm invisible." Sarah's story isn't unique. It's the story of countless elders, abandoned by a system that promised security but delivered despair. Can you imagine the courage it takes to face each day when the world turns its back? The struggles of children and the elderly lay bare a profound failure. A state that cannot shelter its most vulnerable is a state in need of urgent change. Unsung heroes. Community efforts rising to the challenge. Amid Colorado's deepening crisis, beacons of hope flicker in the form of everyday heroes who refuse to let despair win. Across the state, volunteers, small nonprofits, and community groups are weaving a fragile but vital safety net. Stories. Homeless News met Maria, a Denver hairdresser who transforms lives one snip at a time. Every Sunday, she sets up under a bridge, her scissors gliding through tangled hair as she listens to stories of loss and resilience. "A fresh cut can make you feel like you matter," she said, brushing clippings off a man's shoulders. In 2023, Maria's volunteer crew served over 500 people, handing out hygiene kits and warm meals alongside haircuts, restoring dignity in moments of connection. In Colorado Springs, a mobile shower unit run by a local church rolls through encampments, offering hot water and clean towels. A shower isn't just about getting clean. It's about feeling human, a volunteer shared, watching a mother smile as her son splashed in the warmth. Last year, they provided 2,000 showers, each one a small victory against the grind of the streets. In rural Montezuma County, a retired teacher organizes weekly clothing drives, ensuring families in motels have warm coats for winter. These efforts, often scraping by on donations, highlight a stark reality. Communities are stepping up where larger systems falter. What could these heroes accomplish with the support they deserve? Their grassroots acts of compassion show that change is possible, even in the darkest times, but they also point to the need for broader solutions. Voices of resilience. Finding hope in hardship in the face of Colorado's crisis, stories of resilience shine like stars against a stormy sky. Stories. Homeless News met Aisha, a 34-year-old single mother in Aurora, who lost her home after a medical emergency drained her savings. For months, she and her 2 daughters slept in a borrowed car, Aisha whispering bedtime stories to drown out the cold. "I told them we were on an adventure," she said, her voice thick with love. A local nonprofit stepped in, offering temporary housing and job training. Today, Aisha works as a cashier, her daughters back in school, their laughter filling a small apartment. In 2024, the program that saved Aisha supported 200 families, each one a testament to the power of a helping hand. In Grand Junction, a group of unhoused veterans formed a peer support network, meeting in a park to share coffee and courage. "We've been through war. We can get through this," said Marcus, a 52-year-old who now advocates for housing reform. Their group secured 15 shelter beds last year, proving that those closest to the struggle often lead the way. These stories aren't just inspiring, they're a challenge. What would happen if we gave every Aisha, every Marcus, the tools to rebuild? These voices of resilience remind us that hope endures, even in hardship. But individual strength alone cannot mend a fractured system. Systemic stagnation. Why solutions fall short. In a state as vibrant as Colorado, where innovation and beauty thrive, the sluggish response to its humanitarian crisis feels like a betrayal of its promise. The tools to change lives, resources, expertise, compassion exist, yet progress crawls, trapped in a web of bureaucracy and resistance. Stories. Homeless News has seen the heartbreak of families waiting months for housing, of shelters turning away desperate mothers because of rigid rules. In 2023, zoning laws blocked over 1,200 affordable housing units in Denver alone, as neighborhood groups protested, fearing change. "We want to help, but our hands are tied," a city official confessed, his voice heavy with frustration, well-meaning. Efforts flicker but fade. Tiny home villages sprout with promise, only to stall for lack of funding. Emergency hotel programs offer brief refuge, but what comes next? Sweeps of encampments scatter people like leaves, offering no path to stability. State task forces churn out reports, hundreds of pages in 2024 alone, but too few translate into lasting change. Programs for mental health or job training, full of potential, wither under inconsistent support. Meanwhile, law enforcement, untrained for the complexities of addiction or trauma, is left to manage crises they cannot solve. Officers hand out blankets one day, citations the next, caught in a system that demands action but provides no tools. Why do we let red tape choke the hope of thousands? This stagnation isn't just logistical, it's a wound to Colorado's soul. Every delayed project, every ignored plea, deepens the despair of those sleeping under bridges or trading dignity for survival. Yet the power to change this lies within reach. Communities, nonprofits, and individuals are ready to bridge the gap, but they need a system that amplifies their efforts, not stifles them. A cyclical crisis. The need for holistic solutions, Colorado's crisis is a tangled web where homelessness, survival, sex, and substance abuse feed off one another, trapping countless lives in a relentless cycle. A single mother without a home might turn to substances to dull the ache of hunger, only to lose her job and spiral deeper into despair. A teenager fleeing an unsafe shelter might trade her body for a night's warmth, each choice narrowing her path to freedom. Stories. Homeless news has seen this pattern repeat, a heartbreaking dance of desperation that no one chooses. In 2023, programs like the Laboratory to Combat Human Trafficking reached 150 victims, but their efforts are mere drops in an ocean of need. What happens when we only patch one wound while the others fester? Breaking this cycle demands more than quick fixes. It requires a bold, compassionate vision. Imagine a Colorado where stable housing comes with mental health support, where job training lifts families out of tents, and where survivors of exploitation find safe havens, not judgment. Community partnerships can weave this safety net. Nonprofits offering counseling, healthcare providers supplying care, and local groups advocating for affordable housing can make a difference. In Denver, a pilot program housed 80 families last year by combining rent assistance with addiction support, proving what's possible when systems align. These efforts need resources, not rhetoric, to scale up and reach every corner of the state. This is our challenge and our chance. By supporting these initiatives, we can unravel the knots of despair, giving people like Aisha and Marcus a real shot at a new beginning. A call to action. Building a brighter future. Colorado's crisis is more than a headline. It's a mirror reflecting who we are and who we choose to be. Stories. Homeless news has walked you through the shadows, from the sprawling tent cities to the quiet courage of people like Sarah, Aisha, and Marcus, whose stories pulse with pain and possibility. Over 20,000 children and countless elders are caught in this storm, their dreams teetering on the edge of despair. Yet within this hardship lies a powerful truth. We have the chance to rewrite this story. Every unhoused family, every person trapped in exploitation, every soul battling addiction is not just a statistic. They're someone's parent, child, friend. They're us. What will it take for us to act? Comprehensive solutions, stable housing, mental health care, job training can mend lives, but they start with our voices. Support the nonprofits washing clothes, cutting hair, and opening doors. Share these stories to spark change. Stories. Homeless News is committed to amplifying these truths, but we can't do it alone. Imagine a Colorado where no child sleeps in a car, where no elder feels invisible, where dignity is a right, not a privilege. That future is within reach if we act together.